Now, you suggested recently that we should kind of continue with our Stephen King's shit or hit motif of I read the book, or one of us reads the book and the other one doesn't, and then we kind of react accordingly to whatever the film is, right? But we should do it, you said, or you suggested we should expand it to movies in general that are based on books, which I thought was a pretty good idea. Suggested one was rebuked.
Which one?
Jurassic Park.
Oh yeah, that is a book, isn't it?
But anyway, rebuke aside, I decided to take it into my own hands, and I went out. And it's timely because this thing just came out. So I went and saw Murder on the Orient Express. Whilst you snoozed,
I did.
ass out in the fucking air.
Yeah.
Now I haven't read the book since I was required to read the book back in the 1800s when I was but a sperm in a sack.
I mean,
I wasn't.
you weren't, but okay.
Apparently my dad was ancient.
Apparently you're 10,000 years old.
But anyway, it's been a while, but I remember relatively enough of it. And once I saw the movie, a lot of stuff came actually fresh to my mind. It was just like, oh, I remember that, or I remember how that's not the same, or whatever. So I said, oh, that's a good way to do it. So on that note, I'm going to talk about, or I guess I'm going to talk and you're going to sit there and jab.
Sit and look at the wall.
About Murder on the Orient Express, which was I think like the only competition really that Thor Ragnarok had.
Yeah, if you want to call it that.
It's already, like lost that battle.
Yeah.
And with Justice League coming out this Friday, it's definitely, it's lost. The critics weren't too receptive to it. There was kind of like a mixed reception. It's kind of like
it's like at a 60 something.
Yeah, it was 80, then it went to 60. Now it's in like the mid 50s range. So I was interested to see what the hell was up, And I'm a big fan of Kenneth Branagh. I love Kenneth Branagh. In fact, I'll go and say that. If there's been someone that's been so adept and prolific at adapting classics, it's that man, And the thing I love the most about Kenneth Branagh is that he's like, when it's a Kenneth Branagh movie, chances are he's going to be the star of it in some regard. If not the lead, he's going to have a big role in it. So it becomes kind of like an ego trip, but he always delivers, at least thus far. Now when he's not directing and he goes and does something like Wild Wild West, well, that's a whole different bag of tricks. But
that was a film.
He directed this one. He didn't write the script, or he didn't adapt the script, but he directed it. And the big question was, what did I think? As an adaptation, it's not loyal in the strictest sense. It follows the framework, and it's kind of like I won't say it's kind of like an abbreviated version of the mystery angle, but that's not to say that's a bad thing, because really they changed the focus of the film. It's still about the mystery, but this is a mystery that we've known for, or at least most people have known for almost 100 years now. So unless they actually change the motives and the characters entirely, then the mystery is going to remain the same. And I had heard that the mystery had changed, but they didn't do that. Instead, they changed elements of the entire thing, and they did something that was, I thought, the saving grace of the movie. But anyway, let's get out. Have you even heard about this? Or
I knew it was a movie.
Yeah, there was a movie, I think back in the 60s, Sidney Lumet adapted the book. And that's
sure the name sounded familiar when I saw the trailer, but I didn't really
compare
it to anything.
I think even if you're not familiar with the book, you're familiar with the movie, and if you're not familiar with the movie, you're familiar with the character of Hercule Poirot.
Yeah, well, yeah, I knew him.
Yeah, and if you're not, like, strictly familiar with...
Mainly because I called him Poirot.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it's something that's kind of like in the public consciousness. It's not to the level of Sherlock Holmes, where everybody knows and has at least been exposed to it in some regard, but people kind of know, oh, that's a mystery character. He's a detective, But he's quite prolific, especially in mystery circles. Now, I've never been big on mysteries, but everybody likes a good detective. So the question going into this for me was Kenneth Branagh going to be a good Hercule Poirot? And the answer resoundingly is fuck yes. And since it is a Brana ego fest, a wank fest, he steals the show, and rightfully so, because the character is at the forefront of the solution to the mystery. But the thing about this is that if you've played Clue, then you've played a version of this movie, you know. So like I said, a lot of the stuff that is now convention today was because of this particular book and the adaptations of it. So the criticisms that I did read struck me as odd, like, oh, this is antiquated, and I was, obviously it is. I mean, we're familiar with the story, so it's a matter of what could they do to make this new and fresh, and did they succeed? So the biggest change that I saw, the biggest change that struck me immediately was that while yes, it is about this mystery, the focus is almost entirely on Hercule Poirot's character, and how his character arc is the most important thing, but it doesn't steal the show from the mystery. It's kind of like bookended. We get this, by the way, it starts with something that's not in the books or in any previous adaptation. It's kind of like a cold open that serves real well to introduce you to his eccentricities, his morality, his sense of wrong and right, that there is no gray areas, and how brilliant he is at deducing things, whatever it is. And they kind of added this little scene that really did that in a matter of, minutes, and then added kind of like a sense of humor that really punched up the character, which was really nice. Not exaggerated, just right, just the right tone. So that was neat, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then once, the events pick up for where the book picks up, where he's headed, he gets on the Orient Express, that's when you begin to notice the bigger changes. And they're usually, it's not to the structure of the story so much as it is to the characters, the array of characters in the movie. And it's like the smorgasbord that we're now used to in mysteries, the archetypes, like the princess character and the gangster guy, and it's those characters, but they tweaked with them, they didn't leave them exactly as they were in the book. They tweaked enough of them to give people that are so familiar with the story a little, either it's going to piss them off, or they're going to go, I wonder where they're going with this. And in that regard, when the solution to the entire mystery comes forth, people that read the book and then saw the movie and saw these minor differences in the characters and in the clues that are found, those were a big dramatic change. There were these tweaks to the clues that suggested maybe this is not going where we expect it to go, but in the end, the solution is still the same. So that's either going to let people down, because we already know, if we're familiar with the story, we already know what the solution is, or it's going to make them go, oh, this was really not about this mystery that we're so familiar with. It presented us with that in a cool way, but what it really did was made Hercule Poirot's character grow in a very distinct way. And that happens in the book to some degree, but they really amped it up here, and that's what really won the picture over for me, because again, it focused more on his drive. So anyway, let's talk about the intricacies of the movie. I've already pretty much covered the characters. Like I said, they've tweaked them here and there, and it really becomes fun to watch this movie. Even though if you're familiar with the mystery, it becomes fun to watch, because it's fun to see these renowned actors, of all stripes. There's some that are really renowned, like Judi Dench and Kenneth Branagh. Some new blood, like Daisy Ridley, who's, everybody knows her because of Star Wars now. And, some minor characters played by big people, like Willem Dafoe. They're just peppered throughout. Johnny Depp plays your gangster character, etc. And it's really fun to see these big names or character actors that you're familiar with take on these archetypal roles. And for that alone provides its form of entertainment, and I think the biggest tip of the hat, besides Kenneth Branagh as Hercule Poirot, is Michelle Pfeiffer. She she's been kind of making a little comeback as of recent, and here she shows that her chops are as strong as ever. And if you haven't seen the movie, I won't delve into her character more than I need to for the sake of not ruining it. But, you know, she provides, it's kind of like a chameleonic role, you know. She goes from what you expect to what you don't expect, which, if you know what to expect, that's what you want. But if you're fresh to the movie and fresh to the material, it provides a really satisfying turnaround of events for her. But yeah, I mean, the cast is wonderful. It's really nice to see them in these roles and tackling the new approach to the roles, especially. The effects are something that really takes, like a center stage in this thing, you know. It's really a lavish production. Everything looks fucking beautiful. The sets look amazing. You know, the backdrops in Istanbul. Once they get on the, it's in a fucking, you know, train. You know, there's only so much you could do, you think, but they come up with these really nice ways to show the events. You know, there's these over-the-top views of the cabins as Hercule and Book look through the evidence. That was really cool. It just really fit the idea of a mystery and a detective searching for an answer. It's just really cool. But yeah, everything is so lavish. The costume, it's a costume drama, and it looks like they spent million. I don't know what the budget on this damn thing was, but it looks expensive, which I guess is bad if they ever wanted to follow up on it, which they do leave an opening to follow up on it. But you know, if they
probably not gonna happen.
They spend hundreds of millions on this. It's probably not gonna get its money back, which is a shame. But we got something that looks really, really good. On that note, because of the amount of, money thrown at the screen, we do get something that's not in the book, and that's that Hercule kind of gets a few action scenes in this, and they come at the right moment. They didn't turn this. This is not a Sherlock Holmes type of movie, you know, and by that I mean the Guy Ritchie versions. This is not where they turn a you know, paced mind game type of movie into an action fest. That still worked in those cases, but they do give him things to do that are just, that help him reach beyond just the humdrum, you know, let's solve this mystery. And that was especially good because anybody that's seen the 1 million versions of this or whatever may be too familiar with it. And even if you're not, a lot of people have imitated this particular structure, so they might just be familiar with it, period. So giving him a little bit more to do was pretty neat, man. You know, he has some chases. That scene at the beginning that sets up his character was really nice to see. And again, he's kind of in his elder years in this, so he's not like fucking hopping off walls and shit. But it was just really nice to see him actually be part of some of the kind of new action scenes, or I guess amped up with action scenes. And putting him amidst the suspects was also a change that really helped him. You know, I mean, literally putting him in the thick of the event, which was good, because in the book he's not in the same card as them, but here he is. So that added a little bit extra to the punch. So that was really neat. I'll be honest with you, I don't remember the score because I was focused on trying to consume as much information as I could. And like I said, as I was watching it, the book was coming back to me in this form or that. So I can't really remember the score. I do remember not being annoyed by it, so that's a plus. But yeah, man. Overall, while it is not a rabidly faithful adaptation, it succeeds in doing something different with material that's so familiar. And so we'll get to this, and that's that when the story arc for Hercule's character, Poirot's character, comes to an end, it's really pronounced exactly what effect these events have had on him, and it really adds to the impact of the motives of the characters. You know, so when he solves the mystery and when everything comes together, there's a few red herring solutions that kind of leave people going, okay, is that it? You know, because I was thinking they're going to change the end. They have to change the end, right? And then as it went along, I was like, okay, well, they're not going to change the end, I don't think. And then when the final solution comes into play, they don't change the end, but it still felt pretty impactful because they gave you enough about the motives of the people to make it emotionally relevant to them. So you feel the justification of why they did this in an emotional way, which, considering how old this is and how familiar the story is, that was really good, man. I expected to be let down by that because when it became evident the solution was gonna be the same, I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess. But it was pretty impactful. Now, it's not a solution where you go, oh, wow, that's super clever. No, because again, the focus is shifted to the Hercule Poirot character, and like I said, his arc ends up being that he becomes aware that not everything is strictly right or wrong. Not everything is black or white. Not everything is balanced, which is a big part that they established at the beginning of the movie. So that was really nice, and it gave meaning to why they added this cold open to the whole affair. It wasn't just something to make him seem cool or whatever. It actually made his involvement in it all the more relevant, which is much more than I could say about the book, where it kind of feels like he still is the same character and he shunts the responsibility of justice to his cohorts rather than take on that burden himself. So it becomes a matter of conscience and heart for him. And that was really impressive, man. It made me want to see more adventures with him, which I guess we're not going to get. But I got to say, I actually really enjoyed this movie. I didn't think I was gonna because, of the responses it was getting. But if you want to see something in between these action fests that are pouring out during the holiday that is satisfying, this is a good way to go. It's really cool. If you haven't read the book and you don't want to read the book, this is a good alternative in the sense that it provides you what you need to know about the book, and yet it provides you something entirely different as well. If you're looking for something loyal, probably not the way to go. But yeah, man, I'm really impressed with this. I recommend it. I give it a 5. As an adaptation, the grade would go around like a 5, because as I said, it's not strict to. It doesn't strictly adhere to what the book sets out to do. But as a movie, I'll give it a solid 8.5. Really good. I was really impressed with what was there. Kind of sad now that we probably will not get a follow-up to it. But that's okay. We don't really get a lot of sequels to Kenneth Branagh movies because fuck it. He adapts classics, damn it, and that's all we need. But anyway, what'd you think?
He did do Thor.
He did do Thor, but he didn't do the sequels.
So that's good. That's my info. You like it?
Yeah, man. If you like Kenneth Branagh, check this out. If you know who the fuck that is, well, check it out anyway. Fuck it. It's my input.
All right.
Anyway, this has been Ahab talking about Murder on the Orient Express. Tell us what you think. Hit like, share, subscribe. And we're out.